Hi, my name is Michaela Petz, and this is my Chapter 3 takeaways. Chapter 3's title was Perceiving the Self in Others. This chapter was all about understanding perceptions. I really enjoyed this chapter because it made me reflect on my own thoughts and processes. The definition of perception is how we observe people or events and then interpret our experiences and form our own unique opinions. This plays a huge role in communication, but you don't think about it because it's in the background of our minds. Our schema helps us organize information that we perceive about people and the judgments that we make to explain behaviors known as attributes. I found that attributions very interesting, and I agree with that a lot of people use internal factors for why they are successful, like they are smart, they are beautiful, and that is why they're succeeding. But when they fail at something, they're using external factors. The test was too hard, the work is too much, they're blaming something else for their failures. I also really loved the idea of seeing through the eyes, hearts, and minds of people from different cultures. It reminds me of a saying, don't judge unless you've walked in their shoes. Something my dad always said. We are always humans, and we should all share the respect for each other. Another section of this chapter that I really enjoyed reading about was stereotyping, because this is something I have witnessed and experienced firsthand. Through high school, I dressed very masculine and was always stereotyped as being a lesbian. It was very hard being put into a category when I was in high school and didn't want to have labels. Prejudice is something else that I read about that was very interesting, because there's so much prejudice in our world today. You see it on the news, you read it in the news. The world is just a very prejudiced place. 5 things that I learned in this chapter were how to improve your perception. Be thoughtful when you seek explanation. Take the time to evaluate the situation. Consider the perspective of the others, so walk in their shoes. Look beyond first impressions. Don't judge a book by its cover. Question your assumption and stereotypes, and consider the channel or channels being used. Also in this chapter, I read about cognitions about ourselves. This is something everybody goes through and has internally. And you don't think about these cognitions playing a role in your communication, but after reading about it, I can see how it does. There was self-concept, self-esteem, and self-efficiencies. Concept being our strengths and our weaknesses, self-esteem being how we view ourselves, and self-efficiency being how we handle success or failure. And how we handle success and failure was broken down into 3 groups: self-actualization, self-adequacy, and self-degeneration. These are things that we see and do, but we never put much thought into it. Another thing I liked reading about was identity management, choosing what we share and what we keep private. Everyone should be able to choose what they want to be private and what they do want to share with people. At the end of the chapter, figure 3.4 was really interesting to see the cycle of oneself, the cognitions, the behaviors, and the assessments, and how they all play a role and interact with each other. Self-presentation is one of our intentional communications, how we dress, how we do our makeup, that kind of thing. And we focus on this when we're being evaluated. So an example is you wouldn't dress the same for a big work meeting versus how you going to dinner with friends. You would evaluate that situation and dress based on the situation. Overall, I really enjoyed this chapter. It made me reflect personally, and I really enjoyed it.